Hi, I'm Ash from DroningON, and in this video we'll be looking at the JJPro P130 Battler. This is an FPV ARTF racing quadcopter. It came from GearBest and links to the product are in the video description. It retails for about $130, which is about £100, and all you need to do is add your transmitter and your receiver. Enjoy the review and please remember to subscribe. So here is the JJPro P130 Battler. This is not the bind and fly version, this is the ARTF version, so it doesn't come with a transmitter or the receiver. And this one came from GearBest. So let's have a look what's in the box. First of all, a manual, which doesn't seem to have much in it except for a parts list and detail about the camera. And here is the quadcopter itself. Now this one's very distinctive looking because of the camouflage print, that's why it kind of grabbed my attention. It's a 130 class racing quadcopter and it does look really nice with this print on here. We've also got some matching props in the box. Got 8 in total, which is good because finding spares with a camouflage print may prove tricky. So we've got a 3-cell 850 milliamp battery there. That's a JJPro own branded battery, which does have balance connector, which is good. We have a charger, which is a JJPro branded charger. Looks like it supports 2 and 3 cells, which is handy. And also what look to be spare mounts for the camera mounting bracket at the front. So looking closer at the quadcopter itself, this is a 130 class quadcopter. Just to give a comparison, here is the Rodeo 150, which is a 150 class. Now despite this being the smaller one, its all-up weight with the battery is 280 grams, whereas the bigger class here, its all-up weight with battery is 220. So this is quite a heavy little thing. That might impact its performance later. It's made up of carbon fibre primarily, so that looks like 3mm carbon fibre, and it has a cross pattern design common to most racing quadcopters. Interestingly, the rear 2 motors, or the rear 2 elements of the frame, are set slightly closer in towards the frame than the front. We'll have a look in a minute with the props on to see if that causes any issues, because these motors are incredibly close to the frame. The upper board here also is carbon fibre and it's got the really good looking camouflage print, and it holds a number of components. So we've got the camera on the front, which is an 800 TVL camera with a built-in 25 milliwatt transmitter. The antenna is connected into that all-in-one unit, and the antenna is incredibly exposed here. Even just getting this thing out of the box, you could accidentally damage that antenna. Incredibly fragile. The tilt mechanism as well might end up being broken if you were to crash this thing. There's not a lot of protection for that camera, and if it takes any kind of an impact, it's probably going to break the antenna and the whole mounting assembly. Looking inside, we've then got our NAS 32 flight controller board and the power supply going to the rear. Now these are incredibly thick gauge power cables. Again, a little bit overkill, and there could have been some weight saving there by using a lower gauge wire. The motors here they look like 1806s and they are 23 kV rating. That might cause some issues based on the weight of this little quadcopter. Now one of the big issues I see before we look at the underside of this is that when we mount the battery on here, if you are in a frontal crash, the battery may travel forward and destroy your antenna. So that really is a problem, the way that that's been mounted there. And this is another really odd element to the design. The part in which the battery straps are designed to go through directly interfere with where the antenna sits. So obviously you're going to have your camera angled upwards when you're flying FPV, which means you can't then close your battery straps or get the battery into the right place because the antenna's just in the way. Very, very strange, and really these holes in the carbon fibre should have been cut further back. Looking underneath, we've got foam here. Now that's an odd choice because obviously when we're flying these quads, we're bouncing them off the ground in grass, etc. That foam's not going to last too long there. The foam is actually covering most of the electronic components as well, which run underneath the quadcopter. So under the motors here, we've got the speed controllers which run under the foam here. Connected as well are some small LED lights on the underside. So at the rear here, we've got a foam flap, which is where you're expected to attach the receiver. But I don't like the idea of the receiver being under this tiny little thin bit of foam. I'd actually prefer to see the receiver mounted under here, so it's at least got some elements of protection. One of my bigger concerns with this quadcopter as well is the CFG. Without any of the other components on it, you can see that it balances perfectly. But by the time you've added the receiver onto the rear and mounted the battery on top, as you can see now, it's got quite a lot of bias towards the rear. So this thing's going to be tail heavy unless you make some modifications to it. One of the things you'll notice immediately is that the props at the rear actually penetrate the chassis of the quadcopter. Luckily, the power cables and other cables are just about out of the way, but I mean, it's almost touching the elements of the flight controller cabling here. This may also slightly affect the flight characteristics because the airflow through there is not going to be particularly clean. These props are also tiny, and that together with a kV rating of 2300 is probably going to mean that this thing is underpowered, especially with its all-up weight with the battery of 280 grams. The old saying goes, looks aren't everything. Let's see if that's the case by giving this thing a flight test. Now, before I even got to fly this quad, upon first powering it up, it fried itself, and I mean literally. One of the speed controllers overheated and started smoking, and consequently it took the flight controller with it too. GearBest fortunately sent me a new set of speed controllers and a flight controller, so I then dismantled the P130 and began to solder the spares back into place. But whilst doing so, I also noticed that the standard P130 doesn't have a buzzer to give low voltage warnings, and so I took the opportunity to add one. It was my intention to have reviewed this quadcopter months ago, but getting the spares from GearBest and finding the time to then fit them has taken time. But more importantly, this has immediately worried me. It says a lot about the build quality of this quadcopter, and the question now is, was it all worth it? Okay, so we're at the field, nice day, nice clear day. Now it came with a battery, but unfortunately when I tested that battery, one of the cells was dead. So I'm actually using some Infinity 3-cell 850 milliamps that I got off my mate Harry last night. So thanks for that, Harry. As you can see with the various enhancements that I've made, it's not the best looking quad anymore, but it should do. So got my Taranis here.
I'm ready to go. Switch warning.
I've already bound it and set it up with this. Set all the switches off, and let's connect a battery. There we go. And now attach it using the Velcro strap. Now, this Velcro strap is not brilliant at all, so I would recommend trying to find a better alternative to connecting a battery to it. But make sure you get it really nice and tight, because, yeah, that's no good. Yeah, that should be right. Give that a go. Okay, so we're all connected. I've got the antennas on there, and it's a little bit breezy, but it's not so bad. So on this little quad, I have angle mode set up. I've also got horizon mode on my switch here, and I've got my arming set up on there as well on a single switch. So we're going to be in stabilized mode initially. Let's just get it up in the air and see what it's like. It's quite breezy today. It's very quiet actually. They've got a real whine to them. I'm using the stock PIDs here. It seems a little bit hesitant. Maybe I need to increase the Ps a little bit, but it's fairly responsive. It doesn't feel heavy actually, although the model itself is actually quite heavy. But it goes quite nicely actually. I noticed a lot of reviewers saying that this thing has no power, but it doesn't feel, it's not exactly the quickest quad. It's definitely not going to compete with the Swift 2, but it's not bad. So let's do the quick punch out test and see what it goes like. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit but yeah, it's definitely not the most powerful quad at all. But it flies all right actually. Speed test. Let's get it going around a bit. It's got a real whine to it. It doesn't actually go bad. I mean, I guess the extra weight is going to help it with that speed there. Oh, did something a bit weird there. Looking back at this clip in slow motion, the quad seems to roll backwards during the sharp turn manoeuvre, I think due to the poor centre of gravity of this quad. Okay, did something very strange there. That's possibly the PID setup of it. Okay, so let's flick it now into the next mode, which is angle mode. And let's try a roll now, this will be interesting. Oh, okay, it's quite rapid actually. Do that again. Rolls very quickly. Probably helped by the battery being quite high above the centre of gravity there. Not bad. Very quick loops as well. That goes all right. We've got a nice breeze coming towards us at the moment. Got a beeping actually, that would indicate that we're at the end of our battery life, which is a shame. I'll land it now, and we'll get a new battery on there. So flight time of about just under 5 minutes. About 5 minutes, I think. Which for an 850 milliamp battery I think is actually quite good, especially for a heavy little chunky quad like this thing. So we'll get the other battery on there. So I'm going to angle the camera up a little bit. Okay, so get the DVR going. I'm in rate mode now, I'm not in stabilized or horizon or angle mode. Let's arm. And up we go. And we're up. So remember this quad. Ooh. That was weird. Okay, let's go and have a look at what happened there. We're up. Let's go for a gentle fly around. It was a bit breezy today. Now in FPV, in rate mode, feels very smooth actually. I'm just above mid-stick throttle at the moment, so to maintain hover, it's just about mid-stick. Let's get a bit of speed up. We are in rate mode at the moment. It does feel like it wants to rock back constantly, and I think that's due to the awkward centre of gravity that I mentioned earlier, which is really not good. Ooh. It seems to be when you try and push it speed-wise, it also doesn't seem to like the wind. When you push it at speed into the wind, that seems to be when it falls over, but let's try that again. So here we go. Again, we're in rate mode. So we've got air mode enabled. Oof, and there it goes again. Oof. So really not sure what went on there. Very odd reaction to the control inputs there, and it just seems to rock back. Not really sure. I think it needs some additional investigation to try and work out what's causing that. After the third attempt, it was time to head home, and doing so without a smile on my face as per most of my reviews. I then did a bit of YouTube research of flight test videos by other reviewers, and I found this video by the channel JJRC Show. During his flight test, the very same symptom of rocking backwards occurs quite a few times. Therefore, I can be quite confident that it is not just my P130. I'm fairly sure that this issue is related to the balance point and potentially also the shape of the frame, with the rear motors inset badly towards the body. I saw another video on the channel Nick Burns which gives suggestions on how to improve the P130. Now whilst I commend his efforts, I have to say that I really do not believe this to be worthwhile for consumers that have not yet bought the P130. In summary, the P130 Battler looks great and it flies well if not pushed too hard, but it does have fundamental flaws, design issues, questionable component quality, and it isn't even cheap. For that reason, I cannot recommend it, and I'd suggest that you instead look at the Rodeo 150 shown earlier in this video. You can check out my review of that excellent little quadcopter by clicking the video on screen now. I hope that the review was useful. Sorry for the disappointment, but do me a favour and please still click subscribe. Thanks very much for watching.